Hi, everybody. This is Chelsea Teel coming to you live on Facebook. Um, I haven't done this before, so this is a very new thing for me, and so bear with me. I always tell people whenever I have to do any sort of public speaking that there's a reason that dancers don't speak on stage. We're not trained for it, so I'm gonna do my best. Um, So, just a quick little background about me. I was a dancer with Ballet Arizona and Kansas City Ballet. Um, Somewhere in the middle there, I took some time off and trained as an aerialist, so hanging from things, various things. Thank you, Matthew. Hi. um, Worked as an aerialist for a while, came back to ballet, and then just retired a few years ago, and I'm now in graduate school working on my doctorate in physical therapy. So kind of going from on the side of needing all the PT to hopefully being the one who can provide dancers with all the PT. Um, I'll get into some questions as they kind of come in. I have some questions that people have submitted on Instagram and I think elsewhere that our fabulous PR person is feeding me, so been super helpful. I'll say hi to people as they come in. Sasha. Hi, Sasha. Sasha wants to know my favorite color, which is not an appropriate question, but it's green, just in case anyone was asking. So, again, I'll give it a couple minutes just for people to log on, and then I'll give maybe a little bit more detailed background information and then go into some of the questions that I've received online. It's beautiful out today, at least in Arizona. I know not all of you are joining us from Arizona. I know some of you are quarantined in not nice weather. My poor family in Indiana, it's been, I think yesterday it was 72 and today it's 40 something and rainy. So super grateful to be here in the sun and the heat and not too hot yet, but so I guess I'll go into a little bit now, kind of my background. I was dancing all through my childhood and joined Kansas City Ballet straight out of high school. I danced there for 7 years and then actually came here to Ballet Arizona, where I only danced for 2 years because somewhere in there I got interested in circus arts, in aerial arts, and that I had danced for such a long time that my mom, my mom just signed on. I had danced for such a long time that I think that having this new exciting challenge was just I couldn't not do it. I was so excited to, hi Jessica, I was so excited to just try something new and really see, okay, I know I'm good at ballet. Can I do something else? Can I be good at anything else? As dancers, we don't really know what else we can do because that's all we've done as kids. But loved being an aerialist. I was lucky enough to then get a job with Cavalia, which is a touring equestrian circus, and toured with them all over North America for almost 3 years. We did over 500 shows in, I think, I used to know these stats, I think in maybe more than 10 North American cities. So we would, go to a city, set up, do 6 weeks to 3 months worth of shows. We'd pack up, we'd go somewhere else. We'd do roughly 7 shows a week. Holiday weeks we would do more. I know, I can't even believe that I used to do that. Like, the idea of doing one of those shows right now is just, it gives me anxiety. But yeah, we used to do about 7 shows a week, more on holidays, obviously less towards the end of a run. And then that got really tiring. My body just couldn't handle it anymore. At that point, I was 32, I believe. So as a 32-year-old, those of you who are around my age or over my age, you remember what your body felt like at 32. Doing 7 shows a week as an acrobat was just, it got to where I couldn't do it anymore. I mean, I could have, but I really wasn't enjoying it. So took a little bit of time off and got back in touch with Ebe Anderson, the director at Ballet Arizona, and said I was interested in maybe dancing again, but I wasn't sure. And he was very encouraging and enthusiastic about me coming back until I showed up and I had giant man shoulders, and he made fun of them for months. But yeah, then danced 3 more fantastic seasons with Ballet Arizona before I retired in 2018. I don't even know what day it is. I mean, this quarantine is messing with my brain. So yeah, I think it was 2018. And kind of both a blessing and a curse coming back to ballet. I got injured a lot. I had 2 different hip surgeries. I underwent a round of injections for, I'm sorry if it's loud, a round of injections for an injury in my foot. And because of that, I was basically in physical therapy for 3 years straight. I don't know that I ever was formally discharged. I think I just kept going back. And through that process, just I was so happy when I was at PT. It was like my favorite place to go. The energy of people around me, healing and building themselves up to be better than what they were. At one point, I just thought, this is it. This is it. This is what I want to do. Like, this is what I'm meant to do. And those of you who, I guess, know me personally and have known me for a long time know that the ballet world was not really it. I didn't fit. I never felt like I fit. I'm not girly. I'm not, dainty by any means. And I always felt like it wasn't what I was supposed to do. I loved that I did it, and I would not change anything about my background, but I always kind of knew in the back of my mind that there was something else that was going to come to me, and that was what was supposed to be my thing. And I think through all those injuries over those last 3 years of dancing, I found my thing. So, right around the time of the first hip surgery, I actually started going back to school because I had 2 college courses under my belt at that point and had originally thought I was going to be an accountant. How you never talked me out of that, I don't understand, because clearly not an accountant. But yeah, I started going back to school. I knew right away what school I wanted to go to. I had my whole, schedule planned out. I was very methodical about it. Finished my degree in 3 years, and after I retired, I worked for a year as a PT tech, so the person in the physical therapy clinic that is kind of helping you along with your exercises, not actually performing the treatment, but really guiding you and directing you through your program. I did that for a year, and now I've been in graduate school at Northern Arizona University here in Phoenix since August. And it's so hard. It's really, really hard. I knew it would be, but I went into it thinking that, because I did my first 2 years of college while I was still dancing full time. I was doing at least 15 credit hours a semester and dancing, close to 40 hours a week. And I just thought, okay, there's no way that anything can be harder than that. Like, that was a lot. And somehow this is harder. It just keeps getting worse. But I know that there's an end, and I'm getting closer to the end, and I'm now, more. I actually was talking to one of the dancers at the studio a month or 2 ago, and he had said, well, aren't you almost done with school? And I was like, no. But then we realized that I was more than halfway. So that was like a big moment that I discovered that I was more than halfway done with my journey from no school to doctor. So anyway, that's kind of my story. I'll kind of get into questions. I don't know how many people are actually live. I can't see unless if you're listening, maybe like send some sort of an emoji or something, because I can see when people comment. But anyway, Jessica had said earlier when she joined on that she was in school as a nurse practitioner. So, and that she felt my pain with school. I mean, it's when you've danced your whole life, basically, going back to school is just such a complete shock that I I don't know that I was fully prepared for it, but you know, I'm here. No turning back at this point. Uh, so I'll kind of get into maybe some of the questions that were submitted over Instagram and go from there. So one of them, somebody asked about best practices for older, mid 30s, they put, older dancers to maintain flexibility and avoid injury. Um, I may not be the best example of that because I got lots of injuries as I got older, but I think that was mostly from circus. Um, Honestly, the things that I started doing in my 30s, I should have done my whole career. You know, the stretching every night, the really warming up before class, the taking care of yourself in the evenings, making sure that on the weekends you are recovering. You're not going out and, staying up all night and doing wild things, which, Mom, I never did. But um, I think the best way to prolong a career is really you have to accept that being a dancer really is a 24/7 job. It doesn't end when you leave the studio. You you have extra training that you have to be doing because you're not going to get, when you're younger, you kind of get a lot of what you need just from class and rehearsal, and you can get by with that. It's not ideal. Everyone should really be doing cross training, but as you get older, that cross training becomes so much more important as far as keeping yourself in shape and keeping everything working properly. Because also as you get older, directors will, for your benefit, use you a little bit less. You won't be in everything all the time. You'll have a little bit easier schedule, but what comes with that is you're not quite working as hard while you're on the job. So it becomes that much more important than to supplement that with cross training, with strength training regularly, with cardio training regularly. And quite frankly, you want to come out of your career healthy. You want to be able to then do other things once you're not dancing all the time. And I know for me, I feel physically healthier and stronger than I ever did as a dancer, but that's partially because I can be very selective about what types of activities I put on myself. It's not someone at the front of the room telling me exactly what to do, and I'm not having to repeat things 400 times in a row. I get to choose how I'm taking care of myself. And I think as you get older, you have to be okay with making those decisions. You really, you have to take on a little bit more yourself. You go from being a young dancer and being told what to do all the time. As you get older, you really have to, I think, take charge a little bit more, in a respectful way, but also really start putting your own health first. Other questions. Another one was, how many calories do male and female dancers aim to eat in a day? So this is kind of a scandalous topic, but I will say it depends. That's a terrible answer, but it really depends. Again, some dancers will, you'll have days, I remember especially during Nutcracker, there were days where it felt like we did 5 shows in a day because you would do every part you were doing and you would run it multiple times throughout the day. So you were burning a ton of calories and you had to eat a lot just to keep your energy up, just to replenish what you had burned. But then you have days where you're not dancing so much and maybe, that's not the case. It also depends on your age. It depends on how many calories dancers naturally burn on their own. Some people are just like, one person, I'm going to call her out because she's constantly eating, is Ariane Martin in the company. I mean, just always has food around her all the time, but she just burns calories so quickly. And part of that too is because she has a lot of really lean, great muscle. So not only is she dancing all day, but all of those muscles that she has are burning constantly, even if she's not doing anything. Even if she's sitting down, she's burning calories. So there's not really a good, straightforward question to that. Some dancers actually do have to gain weight. I actually, a few summers ago, trained with Ethan Price, one of the male dancers in the company, because as beautiful as he was and as perfect as he was a little scrawny. He didn't have the bulk that they wanted him to have because he's, he was very young, and so he actually had to start eating a lot. We did a lot of strength training, a really regimented program, and then on top of that he had to eat a lot to just build up that muscle mass. So it kind of goes both ways, there's no straightforward answer to that one. The next question I had was I'm not doing these in the right order probably, but how did you balance school and ballet? And that was a hard one. I don't know that I did balance it perfectly all the time. I think if you ask Ebe, he probably got tired of me. Oh, there are more people. Sorry. Hi, Laura. Hi. Hi, Mystique. What was I saying? Oh, if you ask Ebe, he probably got really tired of me in the corner of rehearsals, like with my head on the floor in my laptop, studying, writing things. But there was a lot of downtime, and when you're a professional dancer, you're at the studio, usually 9 to 5, but there are breaks. There are times in rehearsals where, you have to be there, but you're not necessarily dancing. And so where some people would be reading, some people, all of those funny Cubans in Ballet Arizona would be in the back of the room watching soccer games. I would be off in the corner studying and doing assignments and things like that. And I'll admit, I also have not had a very extensive social life since I started school. So that was kind of one of the sacrifices I made to make sure that I could keep dancing full time, but also really start working towards this goal of getting into graduate school. And even now it's a balance because I still do work. I still teach for the School of Ballet Arizona. I do their conditioning classes and the weight training for the upper division boys. And I also have a couple of personal training clients. So it is definitely still a balance that can get tiring. And to be honest, the quarantine kind of hit at a good time because I was getting really tired. And now it's, everything's a little bit more laid back from a scheduling standpoint. But yeah, you use that discipline that is just ingrained in you from, when you're a baby as a ballet dancer, not just as a baby. But you use that and you just do it. I remember when I decided to go back to school, and I always come back on this. My mom told me, once you decide to do something like this, you just do it. You don't give yourself an out. You don't question it. You don't think about, is this hard? Is this going well? You just do it. You just keep powering through. And I have to remind myself of that a lot, especially now for grad school. But let's see. I got to play squat. Oh yes, Laura! We did. We had a squat battle when I was working at Foothills, and it was awesome. So Mystique wants to know, and her lovely daughter is in the school, and she's so awesome. How do you find the balance between increasing flexibility and not overstretching? How can you tell where your flexibility limit is? So this is a really interesting question. I think in general for dance, obviously you have to have a certain level of flexibility. There's flexibility that you need at your ankle in order to be on point. There's flexibility that you want in your hips in order to make the lines that are kind of demanded of a dancer. But I feel like people in general put too much emphasis on flexibility because for the most part, the injuries you're going to get aren't going to be because you weren't flexible enough. They're going to be, and I say that for the most part because that's not a blanket statement, but you're going to have a lot more injuries because you're weak, because you don't have the strength to perform everything that you need to do. And I find that people know how to stretch, but they don't necessarily know how to work out. And so they err on the side of maybe stretching too much or just stretching and not doing any sort of strengthening. And I think, for me, I think it needs to be a balance of the two. But to her question, not overstretching, I think if stretching, so stretching is not comfortable. I was a terrible stretcher when I was little. I just didn't do it. And all of my ballet teachers from when I was younger can testify to that. I mean, even now, I can barely touch my toes. I have perpetually tight hamstrings, and it's bad. Stretching is not necessarily comfortable, but stretching shouldn't hurt. And the effects of stretching should not last into the next day or the next week. If you find that you're stretching and you're having consistent pain as a result of it that doesn't go away, that's overstretching. Then you know that that's not good. And the same thing is true for working out, honestly. Sorry, I'm so shifty. I can't sit still. The same thing is true of working out. If you're working out and you are sore for days, I mean, you've done too much. You should feel great after a workout. You should feel like you worked hard, but you shouldn't be incapacitated afterwards. I always hated when, people were like, oh, it was such a good workout. I'm so sore 3 days later. Well, but then you were so sore that you couldn't do anything for 3 days. So to me, I think that there's you work hard, both with stretching, with strengthening, but it shouldn't be something that's hurting you. My stepdad, Peter, just asked, do yoga positions help with stretching? Yes, a lot of dancers actually do yoga. And so blanket statement, I don't do yoga. I can't sit still in this chair it's been 22 minutes. I've tried yoga and I'm terrible at it. I have to move. But a lot of dancers do yoga, and the great thing about yoga is that for the most part, you're in active stretches. And that kind of goes back maybe to Mystique's question of passive stretches where you're just sitting in the splits, you're just sitting in a butterfly. For those of you who don't, you know what a butterfly is, but I won't show it. Passive stretching is far less beneficial than active stretching. And yoga, to me, is active stretching. You are physically holding those positions. You're engaging not just those muscles that you're stretching, but the other muscles around to help hold those positions. And so I think one of my good friends in school right now is a mega yogi, and she's going to do research on it. Well, maybe. And, I just lost my train of thought. But yes, I think yoga is great for stretching. I'll go back to some questions that we got on Instagram. What are some good stability and injury prevention exercises for hips? So the funny thing about, prescribing exercises, I think, for dancers is that we have this idea that for an exercise to be relevant, we have to be doing ballet positions. And to a certain extent, that can be true. You do want to train to do what you're going to ask your body to do. But on the other side of that, a muscle is a muscle, and a muscle does what it was made to do. And it's never going to do anything different than that. It's not going to suddenly move your leg in a different way than what it was intended. So talking about, especially for dancers, stability in ballet dancers' hips, this goes back again a little bit to Mystique's question. If we're constantly just working on flexibility, yeah, maybe I can, kick my leg way over my head, or I can pull it there with my hand, but do I have both the strength in that hip to hold it up, and do I have the strength in the other hip that's down at the floor or down, standing on the ground? Do I have the strength in that hip to actually balance on that one leg? So strengthening exercises for the hip, people always just harp on turnout exercises, but a great deal of the strength in your hip, both to stand and especially standing on one leg, comes from muscles that theoretically, when your feet are turned in, lift your leg to the side completely in parallel, not turned out. So with dancers in my conditioning classes, sometimes they'll wonder, well, why are we working in parallel so much? We dance turned out. Well, that's because those muscles, in order to engage them just from a strictly straightforward exercise perspective, it's most effective to work them in parallel. But then once we turn out, they can do that same action and it's gonna have a different effect on your body, but the muscle really is still doing the same thing. So sorry, I kind of go off on a tangent sometimes, but specific exercises for strengthening are definitely, your standard like clamshells, resisted clamshells, where you're taking your knees open and closed on your back or on your side. Basically, I would say Google external rotators, because those are for dancers, those are the muscles that are going to help hold your turnout. And also your abductors. There's adduction that brings it together and abduction that takes them apart. So your hip abductors are, I think, the most forgotten muscle, at least hip muscle in ballet dancers, and strengthening that muscle, and I would stand up, but that muscle is the muscle that once you have your leg up in retire, or you have your leg out in an extension, or you're doing pirouettes, that's the muscle that allows you to be tall in that hip. This is my hip. Tall in the hip rather than sinking into it because you're only on one leg. All your abductors, outside bum, glute med, glute min, TFL, those muscles. Moving on, how do you this is such a good question. How do you determine when a student is ready to go on point? So this is, I'll get probably more into my personal opinion on this, but they're actually, since I started school, I've all of a sudden gotten really interested in research, and there actually has been research done on this, on, can they scientifically determine a set of parameters that young dancers should be able to complete before they can go on point. I have the study. I have like piles of articles. This one is called Quantitative Measures Utilized in Determining Point Readiness in Young Ballet Dancers. Super nerdy. And they actually studied kind of, I guess, the differences between dancers who were already on point and successfully on point and those who weren't. And so they kind of did it that way. What that study specifically looked at, and I'll kind of give you my take on it, but just briefly, what that study looked at was measuring strength, but primarily in the ability to point your foot, both open chain, so sitting on the floor and pressing into something, as well as standing on it and going into releves. It also looked at balance, and it looked at the range of motion in the ankle. So for me, I feel that the two most important things in determining whether dancers should be on point are calf endurance and strength, the ability to do, I think this study said like 15 releves, which to me is not enough. I don't think that that's enough. But the ability to do consistent releves combined with a foot that is going to point to the right angle in order to allow for proper mechanics on point. So if you, yes, Yelena, you should do this. Yelena is also a dancer from Ballet Arizona, and she is, Yelena, are you pre-PT? I think she might be pre-PT, but she's working on her undergraduate right now, and super brainy, amazingly talented girl, and she just said she might do this for her research. But so not only having that, foot and calf strength to actually do those releves, but to be able to have the range of motion in your ankle to get to that position. Because if you are trying to stand on point and your ankle only, here, I'll put my foot. If your ankle can only, take off my wool socks, go to here, this is going to be a very tough angle for your body to support. You're going to constantly be pushing and pushing and pushing to get over that box, which dancers know what that means. And that's something that can lead to a lot of posterior ankle impingement, can lead to just not good stuff. I don't want to get too deep into the results of it, but I think there's maybe too many studios that are, and certainly Ballet Arizona doesn't do, most of the like hardcore ballet schools don't do this, but some of the more recreational studios will just put anyone on point. And I think that can be really dangerous. And I think families, and especially kids at that age, they don't know that can be dangerous. They don't know that if they can't stand over their box with some help, with the bar at first, but if they can't get to that position, it's just it's a bad sign for the future, basically. So those would be my two things in knowing how someone is ready. Do they have the range of motion in their ankles and feet, and do they have the strength in their calves and in their feet to take that load? I also think that there's a little bit of hip strength that needs to go into that as well, because you can have strong feet and ankles, but if you're completely, noodly on top of those ankles, something's going to go bad. And especially when they're young and they're working on developing that strength, everything up top also has to be solid as a rock, because that's going to take some of the force and some of the, unpredictability of point shoes. It's going to get rid of that if everything up top is sturdy. There's a couple more, and those of you who are listening, I hope that you will also ask questions, because otherwise I'm going to vamp, and it's not good. You don't want to see that. Two more questions that we got in. One, and this is a heavy question, is the Nordic hamstring curl a relevant exercise for dancers for injury prevention? So I'm going to let you guys Google the Nordic hamstring curl. I'm not going to try to demonstrate that one. So the Nordic hamstring curl is what we call an eccentric exercise. So if you imagine that if I'm kicking a ball, that is a concentric, that is like an active contraction of my quad muscle. I'm extending my leg forcefully and I'm using that quad. So now if my leg is straight and you put a weight on my ankle, gravity is going to pull it down, but me slowing down gravity, that's going to be eccentric. And so that's what the Nordic hamstring exercise is. And eccentrics can be really great, especially for dancers, because it puts a little bit more force on the muscle. It allows you to load muscles a little bit heavier, but with less, I don't want to say less effort, but it is less effort. You can, the strain on, I don't want to say that. You see, I'm very careful about how I say things because I know that they can all be taken out of context. In general, yes, I would say that it's a good exercise, with the caveat that if it's an exercise you've never tried before, don't start trying it. If you don't actively already work out regularly, don't all of a sudden start doing an exercise like that. And I think, that kind of is a good segue into just the general talk of how do we work out? How do we know what to do? How do we find exercises online? There's so much information now. When I was young, it wasn't that way. I had books. I had, workout videos. I had Abs of Steel with Tammy Lee Webb. That was like what we did. Now the amount of information that's out there can be really overwhelming. And I think it can be really dangerous for people too. So, you can find people jumping on things and people throwing things and people, all the crazy CrossFit competitions, and there's a lot out there. And I think a good rule of thumb is that if you see something that looks dangerous or looks like you could hurt yourself, or if you attempt a simpler version of what you're seeing and that's hard, don't go for these, huge, crazy, wild. I don't want to just say CrossFit because a lot of CrossFit can be really straightforward, but that's what keeps coming into my mind is just wild exercises. Exercise doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to be explosive all the time, and nor does it have to be, very slow and controlled all the time. Again, a good rule of thumb, if it's something that you've never done and you are unsure going into it, I think it's better to definitely consult a physical therapist, consult a personal trainer, but also just approach it delicately, especially for professional dancers. Your body is what is earning you a living. It's what, for a lot of people, is your life. That's all you know. That's all you live for. So you don't want to go into these crazy workouts and try these extreme exercises without really either consulting someone or building up to that. That was a really long answer about the Nordic hamstring curl. Claire wants to know, do you have a recommended amount of time that young dancers should be doing daily to help keep themselves feeling healthy while working through quarantine? So this is a good question, and I think a lot of people are having this question right now. How much should I be doing? Because, I used to go to ballet and I used to dance for 4 hours every night, or I used to dance for 6 hours every night. Your home is not a ballet studio. You don't have, most of us, the majority of us, don't have a sprung floor. Most of us do not have Marley, the rubber floor. For those of you who don't know, we dance on a very specific surface that is just slick enough, but also not slippery. It's like the perfect combination. You can turn on it, but you're not going to slip. And any of us who have slipped on stage know that that's a lie. But your homes are not dance studios. You should not anticipate that you're going to be doing the same amount of work in your kitchen, in your, foyer, in your wherever, your backyard, wherever you're trying to do these, at-home dance classes. But back to the whole idea of a muscle does what a muscle does. You can supplement, just your half-hour to hour-long bar classes that your studio is giving you. You can supplement those with workouts that are working those same muscles, but just not in ballet ways. So as far as an actual recommendation, I think, 3 to 5 times a week they can do ballet. They can do the bar classes that their teachers give them, and then also supplement that with other exercises, strength and conditioning. And honestly, as kids, I think the bigger thing is to play, to get out, to ride your bike, to go, you know, if you're in a neighborhood where you can wander around the neighborhood, go wander around the neighborhood, you know, run, do little sprints around your house. You know, just be active, I think, is the bigger thing in all this. Go on walks, take your dogs on walks for days because your dogs are so happy that you're home. Just walk them. We get so caught up in I have to do ballet all the time or I'm gonna lose it, and we forget I was away from ballet for 5 years, did not dance. I mean, danced a little, but didn't dance. And dancers all the time are going through surgeries where not only are they not dancing, they are immobilized. They're in a walking cast, they're on crutches, they're really limited, and that's for months at a time. And they come out of it, and you come out of it usually stronger than before. So I feel like we have to kind of relax a little bit in how much we're stressing about, do we need, Edgar's dog is very happy, do we need to be dancing all the time because we're going to fall behind? Well, you're not going to fall behind. Who are you going to fall behind? Everyone's in the same situation. So I think if in general we can use this, you know, as a time to just enjoy the break a little bit, keep yourself moving, keep yourself active, do those classes that your teachers are sending you, or you know that you're attending on Zoom or whichever platform your studio's using. Do those, but don't stress. This is already a really stressful time for everybody, and adding to that by freaking out that you're not doing enough, or oh my gosh, I haven't jumped in however long, it'll come back. It really will come back, and you'd be surprised at how quickly it will come back. So I think let your, you know, do what feels good and don't stress about it. It's not going to help your body to be in a constant state of stress anyway. So relax. This was such a plug question. My stepdad, of course, is saying, are there personal trainers that work with ballet performers who would know the exercise routines? So I am a personal trainer. I'm doing less of it now that I'm in grad school because, as I said, it's really hard. But I think there should be more of a push. I think I would love it if more older dancers that were approaching the end of their career started working on being personal trainers for younger dancers, because I think while there are some really great personal trainers who know nothing about ballet but can still really provide a great service for you, I think it would be great if there were more dancers who went down that path. And also I think it would be great if more dancers learned more about their bodies from an anatomical perspective, learning what those muscles do, okay, this muscle does this, so how do I train that outside of ballet, and then how do I know it's working in ballet? I think the more that we know about how our bodies work, the easier it is to be healthy. And that's what I've found over the last few years of being in school and really studying this. I've found that it is easier for me to take care of myself and take care of my little aches and pains because I really understand better what's going on in there. When I have a pain here, I can say, okay, is it this muscle? Is it this? Okay, so it hurts when I do this, but it doesn't hurt. Okay, you can you wouldn't drive a car without knowing how to drive a car. I know that sounds funny, but you would, people who are race car drivers know how their cars work. So that way, then when something breaks down, they know what it is. They're not just like, well, this doesn't work. So your body is your car. You have to know how everything works inside of it. And I hope that maybe some ballet schools will start looking into, whether through summer intensive courses or even through their year-round curriculum, introducing just some really basic anatomy that progresses as the dancers get older. You know, I try to give a little bit of that to the students at Ballet Arizona during our conditioning classes, but I think the more that people know about their bodies, just the better off you are. So yes, there are some personal trainers, but I think that there should be more. For me, those were all of, I'm just looking through, those were all of the questions that I received either live or on Instagram. Again, I think the biggest thing right now in this time is to use this time wisely. If you had an injury going into this time, this is a gift. This, you know, especially young dancers, when they have kind of a nagging injury, they don't want to take time off. They don't want to miss out on anything. Now is your time to let that heal, to really, most dancers who are injured have a physical therapy program that maybe they don't always stick to because they're in class so much. Now is the time to really focus on that. Now is the time to let that body recover. Or if you are perfectly healthy, maybe you've been getting the correction of, you know, maybe your extensions are a little low, maybe your back flexibility is a little off, maybe your ankles are weak. You can do releves for days in your kitchen. It's not, you know, if you're on 2 feet, if you're making sure you're not slip sliding around, you can build strength. You can actually come out of a period like this and wind up stronger than when you started because you are allowed to focus on what you need specifically. So I think if everyone can kind of look at themselves and say, okay, what is best for me right now? Not what, you know, not what is best for her. What's best for her is look at yourselves and say, do I need to rest right now because I had an injury that maybe I wasn't giving enough attention to? Do I need to strengthen because, you know, I was struggling getting through all my releves in class? Was I really wobbly in class before, and maybe now would be a great time to really focus on my abdominal strength? There's so many ways that you can take this time and make it beneficial, not, you know, a sentence where you have to stay home. You get to stay home. You get to decide what you're going to do with your time. And if you're healthy and you're strong and you have no complaints, watch some ballet videos. Please watch professional dancers. I wish students would. I think it's great to be inspired by other students, but I think to really watch someone that you aspire to dance like is more beneficial. Now with, you know, all of these dance, I'm getting off a little bit on a tangent, but I think it's an important point. I think now with all these dance competitions, there's such an emphasis on technique and doing 100 pirouettes, putting your leg up here all the time, that we're losing the artistry of ballet. We're losing the soul. And, you know, when I was growing up, we didn't have any of that. I had like an ABT video that I'm pretty sure we taped off of PBS or something. And I watched that video all the time. Susan Jaffe was just, she was my favorite dancer when I was younger because she just had that sense about her. And you're not going to necessarily see that if you're watching videos of kids your own age. You need to really look at those seasoned professionals, those dancers that have really spent their lives perfecting their craft. And yes, be inspired by kids your age who are doing incredible things, but also realize that that's not what you're aspiring to be. You are aspiring to be a Susan Jaffe, a Jillian Burrell. Oh, God. These are the people that you should be trying to emulate. So, Robin, yes, wouldn't knowing anatomy help you to focus on the muscles needed to improve form? 100%. Again, I think, yeah. Use this time. Get an anatomy book. Go on Khan Academy. Khan Academy is amazing. I mean, you can get through the whole human body probably in all of this time. If you finish your schoolwork and you're bored, man, go online. Start learning about your body. Start learning how to take care of yourselves because it's it's invaluable whether you're dancing or not. Whether you dance for 2 years and then you do something else, still, your body is your body for the rest of your life, and the ability to take, hi Allison, and the ability to take care of it is so important. I'll just give anyone listening like 2 more minutes to post any questions that they have. You know, I have to plug School of Ballet Arizona. If any of you who are listening are wanting to start classes, if maybe you don't know if you would like ballet, they offer Crash Course Anatomy. I love Crash Course Anatomy. Sorry, Yelena, my other nerdy ballerina, just reminded me. Yeah, if you're looking to start classes, if you just want to try them out, there's open adult classes. There's open classes for all levels at the Ballet Arizona. They train students of all levels. I know classes are not open right now, but they will all be starting up. I know the school classes, the regular school year will again start up back in August, but I'm sure as soon as all of these restrictions lift, they'll find a way to get open classes started up as well. So even if you aren't a dancer and you just are looking for a good workout, holy moly, yeah, go take a couple ballet classes. Great, great workout. I hope that all of you who listened, I hope you guys keep supporting the ballet now, especially more than ever. All of the arts organizations are really going to need our support. So if you can donate to, you know, your own school, to Ballet Arizona, to really any arts organizations around the country, now's the time to do it. What else? I don't want to miss anything. Again, I've never done this, so I honestly have never even like made a video post of any sort. So I apologize if I ramble, if I seem twitchy. It's not what I do. Okay, well, thank you all for watching. A lot of you who know me, you know that I'm always willing to answer questions, so reach out to me on Facebook. Thank you, Landis. One of my students, her mom was on, so I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I will always be a source. And if I don't know the answer, anyone who knows me, I will say, I don't know. And I will go look it up for you. So I really hope that you guys will reach out to me, reach out to your fitness professionals. I have to plug also Foothills Physical Therapy and our amazing, amazing physical therapist, Idamar Stern. His team is just unbelievable. He and Bradley Tedder have really spent the last 15 years just immersing themselves in the world of dance, and it's a world that a lot of people who are outsiders never really quite understand, and those two guys have done such an amazing job learning what it is that we do, and really connecting with dancers and knowing what's best for us. So if any of you who don't know them and are dancers and are having injuries, I 100% recommend them. So stay healthy, stay positive. Like I said, you know, stress doesn't do anybody's body any good. We're in, you know, for religious groups, it's Holy Week. For the lovers of Mother Nature, it's spring. This is our time of rebirth. This is when we get to become new again. So I hope that everyone can maybe see this time as an opportunity to grow and to become new and healthy and whole. So thank you all. I'm glad that, you know, I had some people attend, and I will see you around. Bye.